The cascade of cancellations began quietly in Halifax on August 3, 2025. Morning when Parks Canada officials made an unprecedented decision that would spark a nationwide debate about free expression and public safety. Sean Feucht, the controversial American Christian musician and political activist known for his ties to the MAGA movement, watched his carefully planned Canadian tour crumble as city after city revoked permits for his scheduled performances. What started as a routine administrative review in Nova Scotia's capital quickly transformed into a coordinated response across 8 Canadian municipalities, each citing similar concerns about public safety and community standards that reflected deeper anxieties about American political influence crossing the border. The city of Charlottetown delivered its decision with bureaucratic precision, stating that Feucht's event permit had been revoked due to evolving public safety and security concerns, while Moncton officials determined that his event did not comply with the Code of Conduct for city facilities. These carefully worded announcements masked weeks of intense behind-the-scenes deliberations, where municipal lawyers, security experts, and elected officials grappled with the complex intersection of constitutional rights and community safety. The rapid succession of cancellations suggested coordination between cities, though officials maintained that each municipality had reached its decision independently, based on local considerations and risk assessments. Feucht's controversial reputation preceded him across the Canadian border, where his history of organizing large gatherings during pandemic restrictions and his vocal support for former President Trump had already generated significant opposition from various community groups. Halifax, Charlottetown, Moncton, Quebec City, Gatineau, and Vaughan had all cancelled his concerts, creating a domino effect that transformed what should have been a routine tour into a national conversation about the limits of free expression in public spaces. Local LGBTQ organizations, interfaith groups, and civil liberties advocates found themselves on opposing sides of a debate that went far beyond one musician's tour schedule. The controversy reached its peak in Montreal, where despite municipal disapproval, Feucht's concert proceeded as planned after organizers secured a private venue exempted from city permit requirements. The mayor of Montreal had publicly condemned the event, but legal constraints prevented the city from blocking a performance on private property, highlighting the complex legal landscape surrounding controversial speakers and performers. Cameron Cassidy, the executive director of Pride, PI, defended Charlottetown's decision, saying the city absolutely did the right thing in revoking the permit, while free speech advocates argued that the cancellations set a dangerous precedent for political censorship. The permit revocations exposed deep philosophical divisions within Canadian communities about how to balance competing values of inclusivity, safety, and constitutional freedoms. In Charlottetown, city council meetings became heated forums where residents argued passionately about whether municipal governments should serve as gatekeepers for controversial political and religious content. Local pastor Michael Thompson, who had initially supported hosting Feucht, found himself defending his position to parishioners who worried about being associated with American political extremism, while civil liberties lawyer Sarah Chen argued that cities were overstepping their authority by making content-based decisions about public space usage. Security concerns played a central role in municipal decision-making processes, with police chiefs across the affected cities reporting intelligence about potential counter-protests and the possibility of confrontations between opposing groups. Halifax police had prepared for crowds exceeding normal capacity for the historic York Redoubt site, while Charlottetown officials worried about their city's limited resources for managing large-scale security operations. The specter of violence that had accompanied some of Feucht's previous events in the United States influenced Canadian assessments, with officials citing examples of disruptions at similar gatherings as justification for their cautious approach to public safety planning. The ripple effects of the permit revocations extended far beyond Feucht's tours, creating precedents that worried event organizers, religious groups, and political activists across the political spectrum. Venue managers began reviewing their booking policies more carefully, while municipal lawyers found themselves fielding calls from other cities, seeking guidance on how to handle controversial performers without running afoul of constitutional protections. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association issued statements expressing concern about the precedent being set, while community organizations argued that cities had both the right and responsibility to protect residents from potentially harmful gatherings. Religious communities found themselves particularly conflicted by the Feucht controversy, with many Christians supporting his message while disapproving of his political associations and confrontational style. Reverend Janet Mackenzie of Toronto's United Church struggled to explain to her congregation why some Christian events faced opposition while others proceeded without incident, noting that Feucht's blend of worship music and political activism created unique challenges for communities trying to separate faith from partisan politics. The controversy forced conversations within Canadian churches about the relationship between American evangelical movements and Canadian Christian traditions, with many denominations working to distance themselves from the political polarization that characterized much of American religious discourse. The economic implications of the permit revocations created another layer of complexity for municipal officials who recognized that controversial events could impact local tourism and business confidence. Charlottetown's tourism board worried about the city's reputation being affected by either hosting or canceling the event, while local businesses found themselves caught between supporting free expression and avoiding association with controversial political figures. Hotel bookings for the affected dates showed unusual patterns as supporters and opponents of Feucht's appearances made travel plans, creating an unexpected economic dimension to what many viewed as purely a free speech issue. The legal frameworks governing public space usage emerged as a critical factor in how different cities approached the Feucht situation, with constitutional experts noting that Canadian and American free speech protections operated differently in practice. Municipal lawyers cited various grounds for permit revocations, from safety concerns to facility usage agreements, while Feucht supporters argued that the coordinated nature of the cancellations suggested political motivation rather than legitimate administrative concerns. The debate highlighted gaps in Canadian law regarding how cities should handle controversial speakers, with legal scholars predicting that the Feucht case could eventually reach higher courts and establish new precedents for balancing free expression with community standards in public spaces. As the dust settled from the permit revocations, the Sean Feucht controversy left Canadian communities grappling with fundamental questions about tolerance, safety, and the role of municipal governments in regulating public discourse. The 8 cities that revoked his permits had taken definitive stands on where they drew the line between protecting free expression and ensuring community safety. But the broader implications of their decisions continued to reverberate through Canadian legal and political circles. The controversy demonstrated how American political polarization could spill over into Canadian communities, forcing local officials to navigate complex terrain where constitutional principles, public safety concerns, and community values intersected in ways that defied simple solutions. The Sean Feucht permit controversy reveals how deeply American political divisions are affecting Canadian communities and forcing our cities to make tough choices about public safety versus free expression. From Halifax to Vaughan, 8 cities took a stand that sparked a nationwide debate about who gets to use our public spaces and under what conditions. This isn't just about one controversial musician, it's about how Canada protects both democratic values and community safety in an era of increasing political polarization. If you want to stay informed about these important debates shaping Canadian democracy and community standards, make sure you subscribe to West is Best and hit that notification bell for our continuing coverage. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand how these free speech battles are playing out in cities across Canada, because these decisions will influence how we handle controversial speakers and events for years to come.